Imagine a thief who can walk through walls. He doesn't pick the lock on your front door. He doesn't smash your windows. He doesn't even touch your wallet. You sleep soundly, believing your home is secure, your safe is locked, and your future is protected. But every single night, this thief enters your house. He opens your safe. He doesn't take the cash. He doesn't take the gold. Instead, he shaves a tiny, invisible sliver off the value of everything you own. He makes your house worth a little less in real terms. He makes your labor worth a little less in energy. He makes the hours you spent working yesterday worth fewer minutes of freedom today. You wake up. The numbers in your bank account look exactly the same. You feel safe. You feel stable. You are wrong. You are the victim of the greatest heist in human history. It is happening right now in broad daylight, and the perpetrators aren't hiding in the shadows. They are on the news. They are wearing suits. They are telling you that everything is under control. Look at your life. You work hard. You follow the rules. You save for a rainy day. You were told that if you skipped the avocado toast and worked 60 hours a week, you would get ahead. So why does it feel like you are running on a treadmill that is slowly speeding up? Why could a single income support a family, a house, and a car in 1960? But today, two incomes can barely cover the rent in a city you don't even like. They tell you it's market forces. They tell you it's supply chain issues. They tell you inflation is a manageable 3%. That is a lie. If we calculated inflation today using the same honest metrics we used in 1980, the number wouldn't be 3%. It would be closer to 12%. Think about what that means. Your money isn't just sitting in the bank. It is an ice cube sitting on a sidewalk in July. It is melting. And the puddle it leaves behind, that is your time. That is your life energy, liquefying and draining into the sewer. This isn't economics. This is a crime scene. To understand the crime, we have to identify the weapon. And to find the weapon, we have to go back in time. Throughout history, money was something real. It was gold. It was silver. It was grain. It was finite. You couldn't just wish more gold into existence. You had to dig it out of the cold, hard earth. This imposed a discipline on kings and emperors. They couldn't spend what they didn't have. If a Roman emperor wanted to wage a war he couldn't afford, he had to raise taxes. People hate taxes. Taxes cause riots. So, the emperors found a cheat code. They started clipping the coins. They would melt down the gold denarius, mix in cheap copper, and mint 2 coins where there used to be one. Suddenly, the emperor was rich. He could pay his legions. He could build his palaces. But the soldiers soon realized their new coins bought less bread. The merchants demanded more coins for the same toga. The empire didn't get richer. The currency just got weaker. Rome collapsed, not because of barbarians at the gates, but because they destroyed the trust in their own money. Fast forward to August 15th, 1971. The United States is bleeding money. The Vietnam War is expensive. Welfare programs are expanding. Other nations are demanding to exchange their paper dollars for physical gold, as promised. The vaults at Fort Knox are emptying. President Richard Nixon steps in front of the camera. He looks the American people in the eye. He announces that he is temporarily suspending the convertibility of the dollar into gold. Temporarily. That was over 50 years ago. In that moment, the anchor was cut. The dollar ceased to be a store of value and became a tool of policy. It became fiat, Latin for let it be done. It became paper backed by nothing but faith. Before 1971, productivity and wages grew together. A rising tide truly lifted all boats. After 1971, the lines diverged. Productivity kept going up. We got computers, the internet, automation. We became more efficient than any generation in history. But wages? In real terms, they flatlined. Where did the difference go? Who kept the surplus? It was siphoned off. It was absorbed by the new mechanism of the printing press. The moment money became infinite, your time became finite. The scarcity that used to apply to gold was transferred to you. The system changed from a storage of wealth to a mechanism of debt. Most people think inflation is like the weather, just something that happens. Oh, prices are up this year. Must be the rain. This is the narrative they want you to believe. They want you to think it's a natural phenomenon, unavoidable and complex. It is not. Inflation is not a weather event. It is a policy decision. It is an engineered transfer of wealth. Here's the mechanism. It's called the Cantillon Effect, named after an 18th century French banker who saw the scam for what it was. Imagine a bottle of fine wine. It's rich, dark, and valuable. Now imagine the king wants more wine, but he has no grapes. So he pours a bucket of water into the barrel. He now has more liquid to sell. He is technically richer, but anyone who drinks it knows the truth. The wine is weak. It's diluted. But here's the trick, the most insidious part of the mechanism. When the central bank prints $1 trillion out of thin air, that money doesn't appear in your mailbox. It doesn't appear in the pockets of the waitress, the teacher, or the construction worker. No, it goes to the top. It goes to the too-big-to-fail banks. It goes to the government contractors. It goes to the financial institutions. These people, the ones closest to the money spigot, get the money first. They get the fresh, undiluted cash, and they spend it before prices rise. They use this free money to buy up real assets. They buy the houses, they buy the stocks, they buy the companies. By the time that new money trickles down to you, through wages, through loans, the damage is already done. The prices of the houses, the stocks, and the bread have already skyrocketed because the rich bid them up with the free money. You are getting the watered-down wine. They drank the vintage bottle. This is why the stock market can be at an all-time high while the average American is drowning in credit card debt. The two realities are not contradictory. They are causally linked. The asset bubble is paid for by the devaluation of your savings. Think of it as a hidden tax. If the government mailed you a bill for 10% of your savings every year to pay for their wars and their bailouts, you would riot. You would burn down the parliament. So they don't mail you a bill. They just print the money. The result is the same. Your purchasing power drops by 10%. The government gets its funding. The banks get their bonuses. And you're left wondering why you can't afford the same groceries you bought last year. It is elegant. It is silent. And it is absolutely lethal to the middle class. They call it quantitative easing. They call it stimulus. They call it liquidity injection. I call it what it really is, counterfeiting. If you print money in your basement, you go to jail. If the central bank prints money in their basement, it's called economic theory, but the mechanism has a flaw. You can dilute the wine only so much before it becomes just water. You can stretch the rubber band only so far before it snaps. We are reaching the snapping point. If the engine of the economy is overheating, you have two choices. You can turn off the engine and let it cool down, which is painful, or you can smash the thermometer and pretend everything is fine. They smashed the thermometer. They call it the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. This is the government's official number for inflation. It is the number you see on the news. It is the number that determines your salary raise and your grandmother's pension adjustment. It is a masterpiece of fiction. In the 1980s, the CPI was a fixed basket of goods. It tracked the cost to maintain a constant standard of living. It was honest. But honesty is expensive for a government that is $35 trillion in debt. If they admitted real inflation was 10% or 12%, they would have to pay higher interest rates. The system would implode. So they changed the math. They introduced substitution. The logic is insulting. If the price of steak goes up, they assume you will switch to hamburger. If hamburger goes up, you switch to chicken. If chicken goes up, you switch to soy paste. According to the CPI, your cost of living hasn't gone up because you spent the same amount of money. Do you see the trick? They don't measure the cost of living. They measure the cost of survival. They tell you inflation is low because you have lowered your standards. They are celebrating your poverty as their stability. Then comes hedonics. This is even darker. If the price of a new car goes up by $5,000, the government statisticians might say, well, this new car has a backup camera and safer airbags, so really, the price didn't go up. You're just getting more value. Try telling that to your bank account. Try paying for the car with hedonic adjustments. You can't. You pay in cash. But the government subtracts that price hike from the inflation data. This is gaslighting on a macroeconomic scale. They point to cheap flat-screen TVs and cheap plastic toys from overseas and say, look, no inflation. Meanwhile, the things you actually need to survive, housing, healthcare, education, quality food, are skyrocketing into the stratosphere. They have created a bifurcated reality. The stuff that distracts you is cheap. The stuff that secures your future is out of reach. This isn't an accident. It is the architecture of the trap. Oh, what happens when you flood a system with fake money and fake data? Reality eventually kicks in the door. We are witnessing the death of the middle class. It isn't dying of natural causes. It is being murdered. Economists call this a K-shaped recovery. It's a polite term for a feudal system. The upper arm of the K represents the asset owners. If you own stocks, if you own real estate, if you're close to the money printer, you're flying. Your portfolio looks great. You feel like a genius. But you aren't a genius. You're just riding a tsunami of liquidity. The lower arm of the K is everyone else. The wage earners, the savers, the retirees. For you, the world is getting harder, colder, and more expensive every single day. You are running up a down escalator. This creates a society of haves and have-nots, but with a modern twist. It's now a society of asset owners versus currency users. If you hold dollars, you are the victim. If you hold debt and assets, you are the victor. This distorts human morality. It punishes the saver. It punishes the prudent. It rewards the reckless gambler and the debt junkie. When money loses its meaning, society loses its glue. Why work hard if the money you earn buys half of what it did a decade ago? Why start a business if the big corporations get free money to crush you? We are seeing the consequences everywhere. The tent cities in major metropolises, the quiet quitting, the anger, the polarization. People feel like the game is rigged, but they can't see the strings. They blame immigrants. They blame the other political party. They blame their boss. But the enemy isn't your neighbor. The enemy is the currency itself. History is littered with the corpses of empires that tried this. The Roman denarius, the French assignat, the Weimar mark. The result is always the same. First, the boom. Then, the inflation. Then, the denial. Finally, the crash. We are currently in the denial phase. The cracks in the dam are being plugged with more printed paper. But paper cannot hold back a flood forever. Let's strip away the economics. Let's talk about your life. What is money? Money is not green paper. Money is not digits on a screen. Money is stored time. You go to work. You trade hours of your life, hours you will never get back, in exchange for money. You're trading your life force for a token that says, I provided value to society and I can redeem this later. When they print money, they are not printing value. They are printing a counterfeit claim on your time. When inflation is at 10%, it means 10% of the time you worked this year was stolen. You worked those hours for free. You were a slave for 10% of the year and you didn't even know it. Think about the dreams you put on hold. The house you wanted to buy, the price moved just out of reach. The vacation you wanted to take, too expensive now. The retirement you planned, you have to work 5 more years to afford it. Those 5 years, they stole them. They stole the time you could have spent with your children. They stole the time you could have spent creating art, or resting, or simply living. This is the hidden cost. It's not about the price of milk. It's about the price of you. They have turned us into hamsters on a wheel, running faster and faster, just to stay in the exact same spot. They keep the wheel spinning so they can siphon off the energy we generate. You are tired. I know you are tired. You feel a deep exhaustion in your bones that sleep doesn't fix. That exhaustion is the weight of inflation. It is the physical sensation of your labor being devalued in real time. The fog is thick, but now you can see the outline of the monster. They will tell you that inflation is necessary for growth. They will tell you that a little bit of theft is good for the economy. They will tell you that they have the tools to fix it. Do not believe them. The arsonist cannot be the firefighter. The system relies on your ignorance. It relies on you looking at the price tag and blaming the shopkeeper. It relies on you accepting the official numbers without question. But the spell only works if you stay asleep. You cannot stop the printing press. You cannot fight the Federal Reserve. But you can protect yourself. You can stop storing your life energy in a vessel that has a hole in the bottom. You can educate yourself on real assets, on history, on the nature of value itself. You can refuse to play their game by their rules. The first step is to see the cage. The world is changing. The financial tectonic plates are shifting. The era of easy money is ending, and the era of consequences is beginning. You have a choice. You can be the victim of the greatest transfer of wealth in history, or you can be the one who saw it coming. History has the answers, but you have to be willing to read the writing on the wall. It was a money system. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next crisis won't wait for the evening news.